Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking the fascinating inner workings of the Bangladesh Army's 28th Battalion. They're also known as the Valiant Tigers, and honestly, they pull off this incredibly delicate balancing act. On one hand, they provide fierce national defense right at home, but on the other, they step up for these highly complex global peacekeeping missions abroad. So, if you've ever wondered how a modern military unit functions as both a domestic shield and a humanitarian force on the world stage, well, you are definitely in the right place.
Okay, let's run through our agenda real quick. First, we'll meet the Valiant Tigers. Second, explore a legacy of valor. Third, break down the anatomy of a battalion. Fourth, we'll look at front lines and peacekeeping. And finally, we'll wrap up with beyond the battlefield.
All right, Section 1. Meet the Valiant Tigers. Identity and purpose.
You'd instantly recognize these guys by their vibrant red and green regimental colors, which, of course, proudly mirror the national flag of Bangladesh, along with their fierce Bengal Tiger insignia. But what really anchors the unit is their official motto, grace, strength, speed. And this isn't just some catchy slogan, right? It's a foundational doctrinal philosophy. Whether they're navigating tricky riverine terrains at home or trying to diffuse tensions in a foreign conflict zone, they are literally trained to embody the agility and raw power of the Bengal Tiger.
Now, before we get too deep into the weeds, we've got to define what kind of unit we're actually talking about here. The 28th Battalion operates as line infantry. Basically, that means they are the absolute boots on the ground. Sure, they're trained for frontal conventional combat, but their mandate actually goes way beyond that. They're tasked with internal security and what's called aid to civil power operations. So, in times of severe civil unrest or catastrophic natural disasters like floods and cyclones, these are the soldiers called in to restore order and help out the civilian population.
Moving right along to Section 2, a legacy of valor, historical roots.
To really get them, we have to look back. Their parent organization, the East Bengal Regiment, was originally founded way back in 1948. But their true crucible? That was 1971, during the Bangladesh Liberation War. The Bengali soldiers famously revolted, essentially forming the backbone of the Mukti Bahini, the freedom fighters. Following the war, the military underwent this massive expansion to secure the newly independent nation. And it was during that late 20th century post-war boom that the 28th Battalion was formally raised, basically inheriting this deeply ingrained tradition of valor and sacrifice.
But listen, they haven't just stayed frozen in the past. As the whole landscape of warfare shifted, the 28th Battalion adapted right along with it, through the massive Forces Goal 2030 reforms. This was a total game changer. They transitioned from traditional line infantry into a highly agile modern security force. We're talking the integration of cutting-edge tech, modernized logistics, and updated standard operating procedures that specifically prepare them for unconventional urban warfare, and, crucially, seamless integration with multinational UN forces.
Which brings us to Section 3, Anatomy of a Battalion, Structure and Ranks.
We are talking about massive scale here. A standard infantry battalion of this size has a fighting strength of up to 800 to 900 personnel, though depending on deployment needs, it usually operates actively around the 650 mark. Under the command of a lieutenant colonel, managing a force of this size is, well, it requires an incredible amount of logistical, medical, and administrative coordination just to keep everyone fed, equipped, and combat ready every single day.
If you frame this as a soldier's journey, the hierarchy is super rigid but highly functional. You can really see how an enlisted sepoy's role, the frontline combat corps, differs dramatically from a commissioned officer dictating high-level strategy. Right in the middle, you've got non-commissioned officers managing the platoons, and junior commissioned officers basically bridging the gap between the brass and the boots. And while pay strictly follows the national pay scale, the military does provide comprehensive perks, like subsidized rations and full access to combined military hospitals, or CMH, for the soldiers and their families.
Beyond just the ranks, the internal anatomy relies on 4 primary functional wings to keep the whole machine running smoothly. You've got operations handling the granular planning of combat missions, intelligence monitoring regional security risks, logistics and the quartermaster ensuring weapon and gear supply chains literally never break down, and admin and HR taking on the monumental task of discipline, ongoing training, and the overall welfare of hundreds of troops.
Geographically speaking, while their heart and administrative home base is at the East Bengal Regimental Centre in Chattogram Cantonment, this unit is highly mobile. Depending on what the operation needs, they rotate through totally diverse environments across Bangladesh. One year they might be garrisoned in the riverine areas of Shariatpur, and the next they're moved to Narshingdi or CMH Gatel. They are meticulously trained to adapt to whatever terrain the mission demands of them.
Let's dive into Section 4, Frontlines in Peacekeeping, Global and National Impact.
The juxtaposition here is absolutely fascinating. Domestically, they act as this fierce shield. They conduct counterinsurgency, run security assessments in volatile regions like Janjira, and provide absolutely vital disaster relief. But globally, they flip the script. They take all that intense combat discipline and channel it into UN peacekeeping. The Valiant Tigers have deployed to some of the most complex conflict zones on the planet, places like Liberia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Sudan, and Mali, acting as a globally recognized humanitarian force protecting human rights and supervising peace mandates.
To put a human face to this level of leadership, consider Major Nafay Sadiq Roman. Serving as the second-in-command, or 2IC, he held the immense operational burden of managing 650 personnel, all while simultaneously overseeing critical, incredibly complex regional security deployments in Shariatpur. Honestly, it perfectly illustrates how heavily the military relies on these mid-level officers to execute high-stakes logistics and HR management under extreme pressure.
And finally, Section 5, Beyond the Battlefield, Culture and Legacy.
Because, a military unit is way more than just its weapons, ranks, and deployments. It's a living cultural institution that deeply shapes the lives of its members and the nation as a whole. So you might be wondering, what actually happens when they take off those standard olive-green combat fatigues? How does that intense, life-or-death discipline translate to life off the battlefield?
Well, a fantastic example of this is sports. Showcasing some truly incredible athletic prowess, the 28th Battalion frequently feeds top-tier talent right into the Bangladesh Army football team. Take Nasruddin Chaudhry, for instance. He actually began his professional career serving in the 28th Battalion before transitioning all that discipline, speed, and strength into becoming a prominent national football star for Bangladesh. It's just a wonderful reminder of the diverse talents fostered within those regimental walls.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought. The Valiant Tigers were forged from the fires of the 1971 Liberation War, sure, but they are constantly evolving. As global conflicts become more complex and unpredictable, how will traditional line infantry units continue to adapt? How exactly will they translate that historic motto of grace, strength, speed to meet the peacekeeping missions of tomorrow? It's a fascinating question about the future of global stability and the enduring legacy of the soldiers tasked with maintaining it. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.